Right, well, I think we should start moving, and we in interest of saving time. I'm very pleased to announce our first speaker in this class, McCarthy. She's very well respected and recognized. In fact, not only in Seattle, but nationwide, and I heard her speak at Puget Sound Venture Club 30th anniversary dinner, and I really liked it. So she was generous to agree to come and speak with you guys about something very important, something what people usually forget. It's about goal setting. And people should think about goal setting from young age and basically take control of their life and achieve something versus just, float with, the current. So she's very successful. She started a number of companies. And what's interesting to me is that her companies are not in the same industry. They're in different industries. So it's pretty impressive. Anyway, not to waste any more time, McCarthy, please help me to welcome her.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Oops, I guess I got to stay away from that thing, huh? Okay, this works. So thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for having me here today. I usually show up in a lot of Seattle University classrooms, a lot in the MBA program. I'm the chair of the Seattle University Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center Board. I'm also an alumni of Seattle U. And I had a really, I guess I got to stay away from that, don't I? Maybe that one you can turn off. Yeah. So I had an opportunity when I was just starting my sophomore year in college to start my first adult business. I had lots when I was a kid. And I started my first of 6. It was a fashion show retail company. Grew that to about 250 employees and 60 retail shows a week in the Seattle and Portland areas. And then we sold franchises to Alaska and New Jersey. And I had a wonderful opportunity. Do you guys still get independent studies as part of undergraduate? Like you'll have a quarter where you do an independent study if you have something really remarkable to do, or at least your professor or advisor thinks you do. Well, I had an independent study to do a business plan. After my advisor asked me, have you ever done a business plan? You're growing this really wonderful company, and have you ever done a business plan? And I didn't know what that was. So I ended up saying, sure, I'd love to do that. And I was able to finish Seattle U in 3 years because I had to work full-time anyway, right? So why take any vacation? And I got this process of going through the business plan steps as an independent study, and my advisors were my marketing professors, my accounting professors, my finance professors, and so on. And they all got together and helped me create this really remarkable business plan that ended up helping us to add franchising to our operation. So we sold franchises to Alaska and New Jersey, and also helped me set up the company for sale later. Since then, I've started 5 different companies, 3 in telecommunications, and 2 in software and equipment for giant hospital systems to automate their drug distribution processes and to get barcodes on every single dose of medication that's delivered to a patient. And the idea behind that is to save lives. Barcode scan the wristband, barcode scan the drug, it goes up, sees if it's the right drug for the right patient. So we sold up, my last exit was in 2012 to a $5.5 billion company called CareFusion down in California. And since then, I've been traveling around the country teaching and speaking on a book that I wrote called The Path to Wealth, and also helping other companies and executives to gain some knowledge about how to achieve goals. In fact, an article in Inc. just came out last night based on the steps that you and we're going to all go over today. All right? So how many of you actually establish goals for yourself? Yeah? Look at you, yeah, maybe, huh? And how many of you do that at the beginning of the year as part of, your resolutions? Yeah? How many of you look at them once a month? Okay. How many of you look at them once a week? Anybody look at them once a day? Okay, all right. Well, as a CEO, one of the things that I would do was have a planning session to review our strategies and our goals for our company very, very often, sometimes once a day. And I do that in my personal life regarding achieving goals as well, and we'll go over that a little bit later. But when you make a choice to achieve goals, everybody, especially at this time of year, everyone is just really fired up about, setting resolutions, writing down your goals, getting excited. You see, if you turn on the television, everybody's talking about, your goals for 2016, right? So that's all great, but how do you choose? How do you figure out what goals you should have? How many of you have singing talent? Anybody? Anybody been on stage or in a band? Okay. So how many, okay, one. Okay, now this question is not for you, it's for the rest of you. How many of you would put down on your goal, I'm so grateful that I'm a professional singer? None of you, right? I wouldn't either, because I got to keep my day job because I suck as a singer. And but you have to figure out what goals you want, and generally it's tied to something that you think you're good at. Well, how do you figure out what you're good at? Well, things that you like to do, things that other people tell you you're good at, things that seem easy, that's probably what you're good at. I mean, I have friends of mine that are computer programmers and lots of employees of mine that were computer programmers. They found that really easy. I don't know how to do that. I would find that very, very difficult. I have other friends that are fluent in 3 different languages, and they can pass between those in 3 different languages in the same sentence. I'm not very good at that, but they are. So trying to figure out what you choose for your goals could have some steps. You're in a class that focuses on entrepreneurs. And I don't think that any of us as entrepreneurs ever decided, we did not wake up one morning and say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. What we did was we saw a problem that needed to be solved. In my largest company, which had about 120 million in annual revenues, the problem that we saw that needed to be solved was that international phone calls were costing way too much. So we decided to make any international phone call from any country to any country have the option of originating in the United States at the lowest price. So if you signed up for our service, I would give you a number that's uniquely yours to call the United States. You would call that number, hear it ring once, and hang up. My switching equipment that was located in Seattle, LA, New York, London, Australia, would call you back as from the United States at US prices, and then allow you to call anywhere else in the world from the United States and make a conference call. So from 1991 to 2001, that was a really, really big business. Why? Because it still cost a lot of money to make international phone calls. Now it's not so much. But then it was a real significant problem. I could make a trip to London and stay in a hotel, and when I got my hotel bill, my phone calls would be more expensive than the room. That's crazy. Now we walk around with cell phones and have free calling plans, so it's easy. But back then it saved a lot of money. All right? So we usually find a problem that we want to solve before we decide that we want to be an entrepreneur. How many of you here know already you want to own your own business? Why?
Because I want to be able to create something that hasn't been seen before and help others.
Okay. And who else raised their hand? Why do you want to own your own business?
I've already done it for a business.
Okay. And what did you love about it?
It's a lot of fun, like designing what products you want to do, and I work with my best mate, and it's really flexible.
What was your business?
Clothing?
Clothing?
Yeah.
Are you wearing any of it?
Yeah, I am. I'll do this.
Let's see. Come on.
Pressure now.
Okay, stand up. Let's check it out. So what does that say? Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Good. Okay, I like it. Everything's good. Cool.
That's the brand.
I love it. I love it. Is that available? online or?
Everythingsgood.co or .com.au.
I like it. Congratulations. So you get to express yourself and run whatever you want to run.
Maybe clothes that I want to wear.
And make clothes that you want to wear. Nice. Who else raised their hand? Some of the reasons that I hear people say they want to be an entrepreneur is because of the stories they've read about other people. You know, Mark Zuckerberg and Mrs. Fields and Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and stuff. And if you look at those people, what you'll see is that they all had something that they wanted to solve, something that they wanted to share with the world, that they were really passionate about. I mean, Mrs. Fields, she was told repeatedly that she would never, ever be able to succeed in business. She didn't even have very much education. She was a mom, a wife. But she knew that her cookies were better than any cookie ever, and she pulled up her sleeves and went to work. And of course, we know the story now that her company is worth billions of dollars. She has, I think, 5,000 franchises or something like that. I mean, it's incredible. It's an incredible story. But she just wanted to be able to help people enjoy her cookies. So there's this purpose that goes along with it. Bill Gates has a purpose. He, from a very young age, really wanted to make sure that everybody had access to computers. And Oprah Winfrey, she, from a very young age, knew that she was really great at storytelling. She loved it. Absolutely loved it. If you want, I can have these slides available to you if you want to give them to the class. But she wanted so much to be able to tell stories and teach. She just didn't know it was going to be in the media. And Mark Zuckerberg really had a passion to help people connect. It started out, if you saw the movie or read anything about his bio, it started out that he wanted to help students like him to connect. And then, of course, it grew and grew and grew. Yeah, so they had a problem they wanted to solve or a convenience that they wanted to make. They somehow wanted to use what they were passionate about to create a business. So what I'm going to do today, I was invited to be able to give you guys an exercise. I hope that's okay. All right? So what I'd like to do today is help you to figure out what your purpose is. Maybe give you a little bit of insight to yourself in order to figure out what you're good at and how that might help you in becoming a great entrepreneur. So I will give you half. I think that's, yeah. Actually, I need a few more for this side. Thanks. And give you that. So Bill Gates at 13 years old was so passionate about playing with computers that he got in a lot of trouble at his school for breaking into the computer lab. He got in so much trouble and they were thinking about kicking him out, but then he recognized that they had a problem. They had a problem in their own school programming and he offered to fix it. So they let him stay. And then at 15 years old, he started selling his work. He created programs for sale. And I think that first year in hooking up with Steve Allen, when he hooked up with Paul Allen, they were able to sell $20,000 worth of software programming and creation when he's 15 years old. Oprah knew when she was a little kid playing on a dirt road behind her grandmother's house that she had this fabulous knack for storytelling, and she really knew then, I want to be a teacher. I really do. This is what I want to do. So part of this exercise, the first thing for you to do is to write down in that first section, we'll just take, 10 minutes maybe, to write down some things that you did when you were a kid that you just love doing? When I say kid, I mean all the way up until yesterday. Yeah. Something that you just love doing, that hours could pass, that you just knew you were kind of good at. And then the second question is, what have other people told you you're good at? What have other people told you you're good at? And then finally, what skills do you feel successful in using? I've given you a few examples. In terms of the first question, I have a friend whose name is Steve, and when he was a little kid, he used to love fixing things. I mean, if there was something broken, he'd be like right attached to his mom trying to learn plumbing and fixing things around the house. And he not only loved to do that and use his hands. If his dad had a mechanical problem on a car, he wanted to be right there and help fix it. And then it progressed that he could fix things on his own. And he loved doing that. It was just so rewarding and fun for him. And of course, he loved the praise that he got from his folks, too. So what did you do? For me, it was storytelling and taking complicated ideas and making them really simple to understand. So go ahead and answer those questions. And if you have any trouble, just raise your hand and I'll come around, okay? You have to do it too. You hear me? I'm back. How many of you need more time? Everybody's got something down? So who would like to share a few things that you've done repeatedly since you were a kid that you love doing? I will call on someone if you don't volunteer, but anyone? Yeah, okay.
As a kid, I played a lot of sports, soccer, basketball, baseball. I would shoot hoops in front of my house for hours upon end. I also would play a lot of video games and watch a lot of TV. That's what I did a lot in my spare time.
Okay. Okay. All right. How about anybody else for what you did a lot when you were a kid that you just loved? Yeah.
It took me a little while to think about mine, but I realized that a lot of the leadership positions I held throughout high school and in college involved some kind of event planning.
Oh, nice. Okay. And you just got really excited that you could look at the clock and start working, and then 5 hours have gone by.
Yeah.
Seems like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah.
So always performing, dancing, acting. I would put on plays in my backyard. All the neighbors and all the brothers would like to throw things at us, but we did it anyway.
Oh, we did that too.
Perseverance.
I love that. Oh, fun.
Athletics.
Fun. Great. Thank you. Yeah.
I love driving since I'm a child. When I'm a child, I like driving car video games.
Okay.
I just enjoy driving.
Driving?
Yes. And, I love to play Lego. And I love cooking, read news, and try new things.
Great. Thank you. Who can tell me what others have told you you're good at? How about you? What have other people told you you're good at? Oh, well, you and then you.
My parents usually tell me I learn really fast. So either sports, languages, or like materials.
Okay.
Something I think I'm good at.
So you're a quick learner.
Yeah.
Any particular things that you enjoy learning more
Say languages.
besides this class?
I say languages.
Languages, great. How many do you speak?
4.
4.
Almost 4, yeah.
Wow. I'm in awe of you. That's wonderful. Okay, how about you?
People always told me I was good at communicating and like teaching kind of, so my friends would always come to me for help in school when they didn't get stuff. I could usually break it down easier than maybe a teacher could.
Great.
Personal, yeah.
That's one of my talents too. Yeah, I love that. Who else? Yeah.
People always say being positive. Like I can find a positive way to think of every situation, even though it's not really good.
Oh, so you're the one, instead of the devil's advocate, you're like the positive advocate. Always find something good in any situation. Great. That's excellent. You know, it's interesting because I know people that have that trait and I like being around them. I love being around them. Who else? Anybody else on this side?
Yeah, sort of given instructions and tips for workouts. So I used to be a personal trainer for a while.
Okay. So people tell you you're good at understanding physiology, workout tips?
Yeah, say that, but also come to me to ask questions and what they could improve and stuff like that.
So you're an expert for them?
I wouldn't say expert because it takes a lot.
You know more than they do?
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. I call that an expert. Anybody that knows more than I do, they're an expert. Wonderful. So you're able to really help them and coach them.
Yeah, let's try.
Nice, excellent. And who can tell me some skills and talents that they've identified in themselves that they're really proud of? You know, what are you proud of that you've been able to accomplish? What skills have you been able to use that you think, wow, this is good?
I think that I'm very good at articulating my thoughts and emotions to other people and talking through things like that. And I also think I'm very good at being in the public's eye, performing or speaking.
Oh, wonderful. Well, you just did a great job there. Congratulations. How about over here? How about you?
Listening to people, hearing their stories.
Mm-hmm. So you're a good listener. Yeah, very, very, very important in every profession to be a good listener. Awesome. How about over here? Yeah.
I think resilience is one of the, I feel the best in myself. No matter what happened yesterday, the next morning I can wake up fresh and continue to move on.
Cool.
Yeah.
I need some of that. Yeah, really. Come touch me. Rub it off. How about over here? Yeah.
I don't know if this is a skill or not, but I found that when I really want something, I tend to just tune out everything else, and I somehow know how to get it.
You're tenacious.
I'm tenacious, I guess.
Yeah, you're tenacious. That's good. Really good. It's a entrepreneurial quality. Actually, all of the qualities. Maybe not the driving, but could be. Could be. You may start the next Uber. You never know, or design the next car with things that you know are missing from cars. Never know. Or a convenience to add to a car. Yeah. All of these can be entrepreneurial qualities. Truly. I found in this process that I love to tell stories. I love to tell stories, and I like to tell stories so they're really easily understood. I also found that I see problems very, very quickly, and I can navigate and figure out the fastest route to a solution. Somehow, that doesn't go so well in large corporations. They want to have a committee meeting and talk about the problem. And then they want to have another committee meeting and talk about who the possible people are within the company that could solve the problem. Then they want to have a committee with those people to see if in fact they really can solve the problem. Then they'll come up with a strategy to maybe solve the problem. Meanwhile, some other little entrepreneurial organization has just blown them away and already come up with the problem and solved 5 others that they haven't even thought of yet. So that was a good quality for me. I also can take complicated ideas and explain them very, very simply. So in my industries, often we would have company buyers that were very, very versed in whatever it was that their department was. So in my last 2 companies, we had chief pharmacy officers or pharmacy directors. There's a whole boatload of acronyms that go along with that. But if you're making a presentation to a 273 hospital system, they're going to have the CFO in there too. CFO does not understand any of the pharmacy acronyms. So it's really important that when you're explaining something, a technical workflow process, that you're able to explain it so simply that even your grandmother could understand it. And I have that quality. That's been something I've been able to do from the time that I hung sheets as our curtains in our driveway for our shows. We would tell stories through plays, just as 8-year-olds, and make that really simple to understand. It's very fun for me to do that. And that would translate into marketing material, and to web design, and to all the things that you need to grow a business. I also have no problem taking risks. I have, like I said, been involved in 6 startups, all of which required me to empty bank accounts, put payroll on my credit cards, mortgage houses, second mortgage houses, have companies ripped away from me not knowing what's going to happen in order to start a new one. Risk-taking is a very, very important characteristic and trait for an entrepreneur. You don't know what's going to happen in your business if federal regulations change, if competition changes, if your suppliers go out of business. I mean, there's all sorts of things that could happen, which I know you're getting exposed to here in your classes. So having a tolerance for risk is really important as an entrepreneur. I'm also tenacious and passionate. I love when people tell me it can't be done. In my last 3 companies, our competitors were Fortune 20. In my telecom company that I told you about, we got sued by MCI, AT&T, and Sprint at the same time. They could all squash us like a bug financially. But knowing that you're in the right and being tenacious and passionate enables you to get through that. And we won. So passion is super, super important. You have to believe in what you're doing. If you're just doing it for the money, it's never going to fly. If you're doing it because you want to solve a problem, you want to create a convenience, create clothing that's better than anybody else's, those are good reasons. That will keep you working, because I'm sure you've had some 20-hour days. You eat, sleep, and live it. You don't even recognize it anymore. You're so passionate about what you do, time just flies. And I really love to help others succeed. Every time I've had a company, and then of course I sold it, or sold my interest and left it, every employee was just so bummed that I was gone, because they felt really spoiled and supported and given opportunities to be even more valuable. In a lot of companies, an employee is told to do their job and to do it well in this box, and to give them freedom to have autonomy to create outside of that box, and to have authority and to work in a way that was conducive to their work style. That doesn't happen very often, but it can happen in an entrepreneurial organization. So our employees loved that, absolutely loved that. In my last company, I printed these cards that had everyone's job description on it. They all had the same job description. Everyone in our company had the same job description. Now they had different skill sets. I had systems interface engineers, software developers, software designers, project managers, salespeople, implementation specialists, all sorts of people. But they all had the same job. So we walk into this one meeting, this giant meeting with a huge hospital system, and the CIO is there, the chief information officer, the CFO is there, the chief financial officer, my head developer who doesn't get out much. Software developers generally never get out but he had to come to this meeting, and the software designer, the interface engineer, the executive vice president of sales, and me. And so the CIO is running the meeting, says, okay, well, let's go around the room and find out who you all are. And it starts with the software developer, who looks like a guy in a deer in headlights. Like I said, he doesn't get out much. He normally sits in his office with bare feet and shorts on, and that's his world. But he's there in a suit, and he says, well, tell me what your name is and what's your job, and and he looks at him and he looks at me and he looks at this guy and he says, do you want to know my job or my skill set? And the CIO looks at him and says, well, wait a minute. What's the difference? He goes, well, my job is to work towards the success of my coworkers, my customers, my suppliers and vendors, and our world. My skill set is I'm a senior software design engineer. And the CIO looks at him and goes, well, that's kind of bizarre. And goes to the next guy and says, what do you do? He says, well, I have the same job, but I'm a systems interface engineer to help interface between Epic and our system. And then it goes around and around, and it gets to me, and I say, well, I have the same job, and I'm here, my skill set is that I'm here to support the rest of the team that work for Fax. And it goes around, and after the meeting, this guy comes up to me, and he hadn't introduced himself at all. He was sort of sitting in the back, and he was the chief financial officer. He says, that was a really brilliant strategy, because usually what ends up happening is whoever the highest ranking people are in the room, everybody's sort of trying to speak there, and what you wanted were these technical folks to be able to talk and design a plan for our giant health system. That was a really great strategy. And oh, by the way, we've never had a vendor who said that their entire job was to work towards our success. Never heard of it before. And we got the account. It was worth tens of millions of dollars. So, when you are helping others to succeed, you'll be successful yourself. That was something that had shown up often and repeatedly. I helped get lots of people through high school that were really struggling. So I feel that you help explain it to them so they could pass their tests. So here were the traits that came up for me. I could somehow create, a job, somehow create something for me to do that involves speaking and teaching and leading and creating and solving. So from this exercise, you'll be able to do that too. You can take this home with you and really play with it, because you will come up with some characteristics or some things that rise to the top that are similar on all three lists that will give you some insight, just like Bill Gates and Oprah and Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg. It'll give you some insight to what you're good at and what you don't mind spending tons of time doing. And when you have that, you'll know what you want to do for livelihood. Opportunities will show up. So what I recommend that you do every day, once you finally figure out what some of your goals are based on your purpose. Your goals may be that you are using your skills and talents in remarkable and fulfilling and satisfying and fun ways, and that you're getting paid a minimum of X number of dollars, and that you have freedom to express yourself and to create. If those are the skill sets, create. And of course, you want to add money in there. Make sure you got money in there. Money's very important. You want to be able to be fully supported in doing what you do. But start describing in your goals the traits that you want to use and see what shows up. You'll write down your goals every single day, and if you flip over your exercise sheet, this information's on there, and you can take it. And as a matter of fact, there's an Inc. article that was just published last night that is exactly this stuff, and it's based on my book and what I teach about. So you can look that up too. She's very eloquent, much more eloquent than I am, and it's a short read. But write down your goals. Every morning, wake up, write down your goals as though you've already achieved them. I'm so grateful that I graduate with honors from the University of Washington and have multiple offers from employment from companies who have reviewed my resume and who I really want to work for. Or something about entrepreneurship, that my business thrives and prospers. Does anybody not understand this? Usually the question I get is, well, what if it's not true? It's never going to be true because it's something you want. But you're describing it as though you've already achieved it. And here's what happens. Your subconscious is going to freak out. Honestly, it's going to freak out because your subconscious wants to make sure that you're always operating in truth. And since you keep saying this every single day, it must be true. So your subconscious is going to show up to show you more possibilities to make those statements true. You're going to somehow, through the millions of pieces of data that you get exposed to every single day, there's going to be some that seem like they have a spotlight on them that are exactly what you need to know to take the next step to make that statement true. You're probably thinking she's out of her mind. But I can give you some examples. I just talked to a guy today who is going to have me on his show. He has a national TV show. So he had said eight weeks ago, no way. I've tried this system, it never works. So I talked to him on the phone and we exchanged, some information. And I asked him, I said, let's just create one goal statement for you that describes this goal that you want. All right? And let's have you use it every single day. And let's see what happens. So today was 8 weeks. Oh my God, May. I had this thought of this guy, so he created some goals around his goal statement that involved taking his business in a different direction and earning lots more money, and we put a dollar figure to that, and so on and so forth. So he's like brushing his teeth, and he has this thought of this guy. And he thinks, I need to track that guy down tomorrow, because May said if thoughts come in that fly in from out of nowhere, that's probably subconscious and intuition showing up to point me in the right direction. So I said, okay, I'll look up this guy and see if I can find him tomorrow. I met him years ago, and I'll see if I can track him down. He wakes up, goes to his computer, guess who an email is from? That guy. So they have this great conversation. It looks like they'll have an opportunity to expand his business together. Very cool, right? So then he goes on and still same goal every day until you achieve it. It's same goal every day. And he's writing it down, he's reading it out loud, and gets a thought of this other person that he hadn't thought of in a long time. Now this was a person that he had on his show. She's made tens of millions of dollars, and she knows the husband as well. So he thinks, well, okay, I'm going to call them and find out how they're doing. And they have a large corporation. It's an Australian company that's huge in the United States as well. And so he says, okay, well, I'm going to call them and just say, you know what, I thought of you, don't know why, but how are you? That's how this works, right? So he makes the call. He's getting ready to make the call, and instead, he gets an email from somebody that works for their company. Well, lo and behold, one of the very first broadcast companies outside of the government-owned broadcast company that was ever created in Australia was this woman's husband. So now his business is going to expand in Australia. That's how this works. You're going to have stuff that shows up. Your intuition and your subconscious are going to point you in directions in order to make your goal attainment statements true. So you write it down with gratitude as though you've already achieved it. Everybody got that? Anybody have a question about that? Okay, then read it out loud. As soon as you write it down, read it out loud with emotion. And what happens is it anchors it more fully into you. And every single successful business person will tell you that when we have our goals at the forefront of our thoughts, we remember them. and we see more possibilities. It's something that we're programming our subconscious to make happen. Okay? And then finally, see yourself. This is a technique. Who in here said they were athletes? You're an athlete. You're an athlete. Athlete. Okay, so you probably have heard that a lot of Olympic and professional athletes use this technique as part of their training. They set aside time every single day when they're in the midst of their training to do this technique. They see themselves in their mind's eye in the completed goal. For me, when I wanted revenue increases, I would see myself look in my mind's eye, sitting down at my computer, pulling up my financials, and seeing the dollar amount that I wanted on there. Or if I had a giant customer meeting, I would see myself walking into the meeting, having a great time, and leaving the meeting knowing, yeah, we're getting that customer. The more you can anchor it, the more you'll be able to make this a reality, and you'll notice possibilities to make it true. I'm not the only one that does this. Steve Jobs said you have to actually have courage to follow your heart and intuition, because really, it can sound kind of wacky. What I just described to you can sound wacky, but it's not. It works. Oprah Winfrey said that she has been listening and following directions for that still small voice of intuition her entire life. And the only times that she's made mistakes is when she didn't listen. Most of us, when we get a thought of someone or a gut instinct or an idea that doesn't make sense, we try and kill it and just say, oh, I'm not going to do that. And I have an example of that. But also Bill Gates said often you have to rely on intuition. Would you all agree that these are three pretty successful people? Would anyone like to have success similar to them? Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? No one, of course. So I'll give you an example with this $400,000 Cleveland story. I had been writing down, this was a relatively new business for me, and I'd been writing down, I'm so grateful that we now have an increase of a minimum of $400,000 in revenues during this particular time period, okay? Every day. Write it down, read it out loud, imagine seeing my financials, okay? It's all good. So I travel about 150,000 miles a year, domestic, and I have it down. I get off the plane, I grab my bag, I get my rent-a-car, I go to the hotel, I drop off my stuff. Then I get back in the car and I go to the closest grocery store to get my water and snacks and supplies for my stay. And I did that in Cleveland. As I'm in the car ready to go to the grocery store, which I know is 5 minutes away, I get this very strong thought. Go to a grocery store that's this other one that's about 15 minutes away. So here comes the rational mind. May. It's 9 o'clock at night in Cleveland. Why would you drive an extra 10 minutes each way to go get something that you know is only 5 minutes away? That makes no sense. Oh, and by the way, your appointment is at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's 5 o'clock in the morning, Seattle time. You don't want to be too tired. Sound familiar? Yeah? But instead, what you do is you just stop and say, look, if I'm supposed to make the drive, give me an obvious sign. This inner intuition, this wisdom, give me a sign. Just tell me if I'm supposed to do that, otherwise I'm going to this 5 minute away grocery store. And all of a sudden, I sort of got this gut feeling like, you know what, just go. Then here comes my intuitive mind. And Albert Einstein said we have an irrational and an intuitive mind. So here comes the intuitive mind. Well, it's only 10 minutes extra out of your way, and even though it's 9 o'clock here, it's only 6 o'clock in Seattle. You're not going to be able to go to sleep anyway. And who knows? Everything that you want might be on sale. So I made the drive. As I park the car and I'm walking into the grocery store, who should be walking out at exactly the same time? But somebody I had met 6 months before at a trade show who represented a very large potential customer and who was not returning any of my phone calls or emails for an appointment. Hi, how are you? And we strike up this conversation. And of course, he then finds out that we are serving the Cleveland Clinic, which is a really, really giant hospital system that's very, very notable and well thought of. And he says, really? Well, why don't you come see us too? Let's have a meeting this week while you're here. Of course, I'm going, okay, but inside I'm going, yes. So I make the appointment, we have the meeting, and that leads to another meeting and another one, and a signed contract worth over, say it, $400,000. Now, how many of you were taught, or maybe are taught in business school, that you should create a goal, and then you should figure out every step to get to your goal? That's what I was taught. But how many of you would say, okay, here's my goal, $400,000. So I'm going to fly to Cleveland. I'm going to drive to a grocery store that's 15 minutes. Who would do that? Somehow, though, that's how this works. I can't explain it except that intuition somehow shows up to guide us. And we all have it. We all have it. I have countless stories that are just like that from me and from lots and lots of other business people that have put this practice to work. I mean, why would Inc. magazine and Fast Company and all these other magazines publish my stuff? It works. I'm not telling anyone anything new, but this might be the first time that you've heard it at the University of Washington. So do this. But I don't want to discount practical knowledge, okay? So with practical knowledge, you have to have the tools. You might be guided to go somewhere, but you're going to need to know how to handle that situation. You might be guided to go talk to a new supplier, but you need to know how to run your business. And you learn practical knowledge here at school. And you learn it also from mentors. So if you want to start your own business, you have to have an opportunity. You have to create a business plan, which you're learning how to do. You have to figure out how much money you're going to need to get your business going until you reach sustainability and profitability. And as an angel investor, I look at about 150 deals a year and help people, based on what their businesses are. I spend a lot of time in healthcare because that's where I like to play. So a lot of healthcare companies, I invest in them and help them grow. If you are serious about figuring out what it takes to start a business and grow a business, you have an invaluable, wonderful opportunity here at the University of Washington, and that's your business plan competition. If you have an idea, talk to your professor, because the business plan competition, you will go through everything that a business person goes through, that gets ready to pitch to investors, that prepares all the material, and you actually get to practice it. And guess what? There's prize money. I think our prize at Seattle University is $10,000. I think yours is $30,000, isn't it?
The number I have in my head is 50,000, but I'm not sure if it's strictly for first prize or combined.
Yeah, ours is 30 for everything. Yeah, but yeah, there's some money there. So T-shirt, if you need an extra 30,000, that might be a good competition for you. So let me ask you, do you guys have any questions for me? I think I made it. I have 5 minutes left. Have I overwhelmed you enough? Yeah.
Well, just when you're talking about you started your first company and you grew it and then you sold it and you bought another one and you sold it. So why would you sell it? I mean, I get it. You're making money. You're selling it, I suppose, right? But why, if you have a passion for something, would you stay in it long term, or what's?
My first company was, I'm not clearly, I'm not passionate about fashion, otherwise I'd look a lot better. But that was something that I did while I was a college student. And then I stayed a little bit longer. I also got an opportunity to work with my mother and my sister. My sister and I were partners, and then we brought my mom into the business because we wanted her to move closer to us. But that wasn't something that I started all by myself. The problem we were solving was that my sister was a real estate broker, and she didn't want to work on weekends anymore. because she wanted to be with her family. She had a brand new baby, and weekends were precious to their family. If you're a broker, you always work weekends and open houses. Okay. So that was one of the problems we were solving. I didn't really care what we did, as long as I got to use my skills and talents for, which were the list that were up there, and I got to use all those. I hired and trained all the models, taught them how to sell. I bought and figured out everything that we were going to sell, all the clothing. So I designed our whole portfolio of stuff to sell. So I got to use my talents, but my main goal was to get through school and have some fun.
So you were just sort of done with it at a certain point?
Yeah. I was ready for the next adventure. I also never had worked for a large company before, so I took a job with Boeing. I had a year and a half at Boeing and a year at Johnson & Johnson, and actually got in trouble. I mean, I got lots of raises and awards, even though I was there for such a short period of time. So that executive level loved me, but the middle management didn't understand me. And I maybe were threatened about me taking their job, but I don't know. It didn't work. The corporation was not the right life for me. There's too much waste, and it would keep me up at night. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
How did you know that the idea is worth the risk to start up? Like if you're starting a company, how did you know that it was worth taking the risk?
Well, when you're doing your business plan, I mean, I hadn't done a business plan when I started the first company, but every single company after that, we did one. So what you do in a business plan is you create lots of scenarios and lots of feasibility studies. You do marketing research, which simply could be calling up potential customers and saying, would you buy this? Okay, you wouldn't? Well, how would you want it changed in order to buy it? So a business plan has lots of different components. And you'll learn, if you haven't already, all the components that you go through. And there's so many online tools that have business plan templates. So you do your homework in order to mitigate risks. But all except one company, we self-funded. Only one company did we go out for angel money and venture money. Yeah. Any others? Yeah.
I have two questions. One is your intuition and if you just lucky, how do you define your intuition and if you just being lucky that day or something. And my second question is if your intuition led you to one of the failure at that moment, how you come back and continue to be interested in entrepreneur or whatever.
Okay. So let's take the first one about lucky. You know, a lot of people that are lucky, if you ask somebody that you look at and say, wow, they're lucky. I mean, they walk in the room, there's going to be a raffle drawing, guess who's going to win? They're going to win. It happened to me at Puget Sound Venture Club. I'm like, look, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. And sure enough, I won 3 things that night. And everybody's just like, stop it. But lucky is being prepared and having a mindset that you expect to win, all right? In 1994, I had this picture of my sister's face in my mind's eye, and I knew that meant to go stop by her office. You know, it's like the guy who I told you about with the broadcasting company, or the idea of going to a grocery store. I mean, you'll figure out how intuition shows up for you. Sometimes it's a gut feeling, sometimes it's this awareness, sometimes it's a thought, or even sometimes a picture. So I had this picture of my sister's face, and I drove to her office, and she was really, really, really happy to see me because she had a computer problem, which I could fix for free. So I'm fixing her problem, and she sees this little teeny, I mean, if you look at a head of a pencil or a pen, it's not much bigger than that, the tip of a pen, not much bigger than that. She sees this little spot on my outside of my right leg, and she asked what it was. And I was born and raised in Hawaii, so I told her it was a freckle. She said she didn't feel that it was a freckle. And she asked me, will you go see my dermatologist about this? So I was just about to dismiss her fear, and my gut hurt. So I just did as she said. I went to see the dermatologist, and he said, it's nothing. It's too small. And I was raised by a surgeon. My dad was a surgeon. And surgeons are about right here. Sometimes they're above, sometimes they're right below God. Yeah, in their own mind. And we were taught never, ever to question a doctor's authority, that they know more than we do. So he said, it's nothing, you can leave, don't worry about it. And my gut hurt again. So I had to even go beyond this belief with courage and say, I'm so sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but you need to cut that off. And he barely got one stitch in, because it was that small. I came back a week later to a diagnosis of malignant melanoma, Clark's level 3. When it's 4, you're going to die. Was I lucky? I don't know. But there's intelligence within you. The scientists have just proved that the brain cells that you have in your brain are the second largest place that you have those exact same brain cells in your stomach. And you have the same ones in your heart. These neurons are identical. They're located in your stomach and your heart too. They just figured that out within the last couple of years. Eastern religious traditions, a lot of the Eastern traditions used to think that your brain was in your stomach. Probably because of this intelligence. So I don't know why it works, it just works. And your second question was?
If, for example, I just came out from that, I'm going to somewhere, but it ended up to be a really bad day, like how do you move on? Like intuition.
You mean if you get an intuitive message to go somewhere and it turns out bad? You know, what I generally do is say, this is not bad. Because if I wouldn't have come, I might have been somewhere else and maybe gotten in a car crash or something. So it could have been saving you from something worse. You don't know. But choose to look at it that way. Yeah, sure. Okay, I guess we're done.
Actually, I would like
Oh.
to end on the Blitz interview.
Oh,
I
okay.
mentioned
Sure.
You know, CNN Money has this page when they say 15 questions whether an entrepreneur, you know, nationally recognized people they interview. They tend to be more humoristic, like, you know, what to eat for breakfast, etc. So I'd like to start this tradition with our guest speakers. Question number 1. What about your job most excites you?
What about my job that most excites me? I think the part that most excites me is meeting all the different people. I speak all over the world to a lot of audiences that will have thousands of people in the audience. And I love being able to meet people and see how they're growing as a result of what we talked about.
Excellent. Second question. How many hours do you sleep?
Generally between 6 and 8 per night, yeah.
Okay. Third question. What do you eat for breakfast?
I had coffee and a muscle milk protein shake as cream in my coffee and a banana.
That's all?
Yeah.
Very light breakfast. If you could pitch to one person, who would it be?
If I could preach to one?
No, pitch your idea, pitch your business to one person, who would it be?
If I could pitch Oprah Winfrey.
Why?
Because she relies heavily on intuition, and she would get this faster than anyone else.
What is on your home screen? Computer.
Oh, a wave. No, I'm sorry. My home screen is a picture of.
Or your smartphone
Yeah.
screen.
No, on my phone, it's my husband winding up for a really good shot of golf. But on my home screen, it's the bay I grew up in with the most incredible lightning storm.
And you grew up in Hawaii.
In Kailua.
Beautiful place.
Yeah.
Okay. How often do you exercise?
Minimum of 5 days a week. I walk or go to the gym and read my book on the elliptical.
Okay. What app can't you live without?
What?
App, you know, kind of smartphone app. There is
Oh, what app?
you cannot live without?
The knot tying app.
Did you get it?
I have a boat, so tying knots. It's an animated knot tying app.
What is your favorite city and why?
My favorite CD?
City. No.
City.
City.
Oh gosh, Seattle. Because it feels like a small, big town. Feels like a small town. But it's big enough to have all the conveniences of a big town.
Now, this is an important question. What is the most important company we have never heard of? Company you think is very important, but general public doesn't know about.
Wow. That's a toughie, because I just assume everybody knows about everything because we get information so instantaneous. Okay. You probably haven't heard of Odonexus, right? Okay.
You think it's a biomedical company?
Yeah.
Was it here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. That's a forum investment. Yeah.
How about Monitor Mask?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I heard of that.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Monitor
Well, I'm
Mask?
kind of exception because I've been in Keretsu meetings, so.
Okay. So both of those are medical device companies that are very, very slight changes to innovate, very innovation, but slight changes to what doctors use already in terms of checking your ears and having oxygen and anesthesia. It monitors the CO2 so you don't get brain dead.
Yeah, particularly like one for the ear infection.
I love that.
Because it is really.
That's super innovative.
Sounds simple, but it sounds very,
right.
useful.
So do you all know ultrasound technology, right? So ultrasound technology usually goes through mass, goes through liquid, or goes through your stomach if you're going to check something inside you. Okay, so it usually does that. It's never gone through air before. And when young children are screaming because of an ear pain, doctors guess. They go, well, it could be an infection or it could be a blockage. So they will use their best guess to prescribe an antibiotic or to put in tubes to open up the ear, right, and remove the blockage. Well, what this company has done is taken ultrasound technology and put it in those little scope things, with the little cone to check kids' ear, and it shoots ultrasound so that it passes through air and then hits the eardrum. And what it's able to determine is the viscosity of the liquid behind the ear. So if it's really thick, it's probably what? Infection. If it's really, really thin, it's probably water or a less dense liquid. And with that information, they then can make a better diagnosis of how to treat the patient. This is really innovative.
Yeah,
so.
this company also has a very good CEO.
Yeah,
I like how she.
Cameron. Caitlin Cameron.
Are there any social platforms you refuse to participate in?
Well, I wasn't even on Facebook I wasn't on Facebook until about 2 years ago because I was always trained to become very successful and wealthy and anonymous. And I took great pride in that. And then when I decided to become an author, you can't be anonymous anymore. So Facebook.
How many friends do you have?
13,600.
13,000? Wow.
Yeah.
Example to follow. How many friends do you guys have? Huh?
On LinkedIn, I think it's 1,100, and Twitter, I don't know, 2,600 or something like that.
What are you reading right now?
I just finished a book called Drive. Anybody? No? It is a book that talks about what motivates people. Autonomy, passion, things very similar to what we talked about today.
Do you think there is a tech bubble right now?
No.
Okay.
I think
Best-
technology is just going to continue to be explosive and wonderful and convenient.
Very important question. Best piece of advice you have been given in your life? Best piece of advice you have been given in your life?
Yes, I got this when I was 18, and that is that achieving goals is easy. Figuring out what you want, that's the hard part.
What keeps you up at night?
My cat.
I can see that. Yeah, that happening. And the last question. Let's say we have a time machine parked over there, and you can go back to the time when you were 18, and you can give yourself when you're 18 an advice. What would be?
You're going to love your life. You're going to have a great time. Yeah, there's nothing I would change about what I've done. I would just say, keep doing what you're doing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It was a really big pleasure. Thank you. I'll take a 10 minutes break. We're a little behind for 10 minutes break, and then we will go very quickly about this class. To break. All right. So since several of you were not here last time, of course you can see the slides, but I just would like to kind of emphasize the key points. So what are we trying to do in this class? If I can say in one picture, we're trying to build a bridge from A to B. A, it's your idea. B, it's sustaining business which is profitable and ongoing. So C, this is a bridge. All the elements that May was talking about, how we actually do that, the business plan and everything else will go with this. There are two requirements for successful business. Now you should be able to tell me. What's the first requirement?
Problem.
There is a problem, because then you can come up with a solution. But it's not enough. Business problem only gives you the opportunity for solution, but you don't know if your market actually needs it. So you need second requirement, which is market trend. Yes. Something which is bigger than any one company, something which allows you as a little startup to compete with big companies. Think about Netflix. Think about, doesn't come to mind right now, but I'm sure you have examples of, because this together gives you business opportunity. And business opportunity is this something you can move along and, develop plan, get early customers, get funding, and ultimately scale and exit. So it's critical. You need to, people all, often think about the first one, but they forget about the second one. Both are important. Now, how old and educated are first-time entrepreneurs? About 44. And as far as most common education for those people? Bachelor's degree. So again, if you're not starting your company in age 25, don't despair, because most people don't. And in fact, if you really want to be an entrepreneur, going like PhD route, like I did, probably not the best way. Get a bachelor degree and go get experience in life. Look at May. She was in many places, different companies. It's just like learning by doing. This is the best learning you can possibly get. But of course, you need baseline education to be able to learn on your own. What's the reality about starting companies? You hear a lot of hype today about all these hot startups which raise in, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars at the age of 20 plus. What's the reality for normal people? Most of them fail, even if they do everything right and get funding. Why? Because there is lots of risk which you cannot mitigate. You cannot mitigate general economy, you cannot mitigate other competitors, and other things. So that's first. Second, what's there, another one? Yeah, most businesses are not Googles and Microsofts and they're small, they're not glamorous, they employ not many people, they just happen to be profitable and provide comfortable life for founders, and that's okay for most people. So if it's okay for you, then it's a good route, because probability of starting next Google or Facebook probably not very high. And last point I think was, so it may take you years, may take you decades after this class, when you're really ready to do something. Financially, maturity level, and most importantly, when you come across an opportunity which you're really passionate about. As May was talking about, passion is very critical. Because you get to the point when you're talking to customers, you need to feel your passion, then you're solving their problem. When you talk to investors, angel investors, they don't invest into company per se or idea per se. They invest in a person, and that founder or founders, because they believe in them. They believe these people can take their money and run and make it a success. If you are founder and you present in a very kind of, unexcitable way, you're not going to be excited either. And for purposes of this class, what do we consider a business? Because you need to come up with idea for a business. So what do we consider a business? Is a standalone restaurant on the corner, is this business we consider as an example? No. We consider something which, nothing wrong with a restaurant business if you can sustain it and it's, goes ongoing. But we're looking for something which requires a business plan. Looking for something which can scale. You start something small and then you increase, you add more products, you serve different categories of customers, you increase it geographically, so it's a spendable business. Something which can grow, okay? 10 rules for entrepreneurs. Actually, I was looking yesterday and I updated, I changed few of them. I keep changing things around. It's, I guess, just a natural way of improving. First of all, think big. Because if you think small, reality will make it even smaller, and it's not so exciting. Think about big opportunity. And of course, it doesn't mean that you're not to be focused. Think big. My app will be on every platform, on every person in this world or America. But it starts small. It's just web native environment, and it's a little MVP targeted to specific segment of our customers. When we've proven ourselves, then we move native application for Android, and then we move to iOS, and then we add more customers, so you grow. But you need to think big. Second, entrepreneurship is a team sport. History knows only, actually I'm not sure if I know any, probably I know. A single founder is rather unusual for a successful company ultimately. Usually you have several. Think about Apple. Steve Jobs and Wozniak. Steve was more about selling and business. The other person was more about technology. Think about Bill Gates and Paul Allen. Well, they both were kind of geeks. But one was more into technology, second was more dealing with customers and partners and, funding. It's usually very beneficial. And in fact, if you are looking for money and you're a single founder, investors would be a bit concerned. Because you're spreading too thin, and face it, one person cannot do everything perfect. You cannot be a detailed and a strategist, you cannot be business and technology at the same time. It's just impossible, you will not be good at this. So ideally you have one person who loves to do technology, works with developers and stay in a room all the time, and second one who deals with marketing and people. That works best. So, to discuss. Third one, for those of you who are not in class, don't invent. It's very risky, very expensive and time consuming. Borrow from different industries, different companies. Just adapt from one industry, creatively adapt to another industry. This is the best way. Look at Apple and many other companies. Talk to prospective customers. The biggest mistake entrepreneurs do, especially technology ones with engineering background or PhDs, they assume they know what's the problem, and they work on solution for several years. And they don't even bother to ask customers, like May said, if I give you X, will you buy it? How much will you pay? They release the product to see that actually maybe 10 people in the whole world are interested. Hire people that are smarter than you. I mentioned about success of Microsoft. Because now, it's hard psychologically to have somebody smarter than you, but you must. You won't build smart company. Strong advisors. You will never, even if it's two founders, not one, you will never know everything. Surround yourself with people who have experience in different walks of life, so they can advise you. You can run ideas by them. Market test your product as soon as possible. because you will learn a lot, and you can pivot, and off we go. 8, don't be greedy. There is nothing more disgusting than founder which doesn't share success with employees. And actually there is another reason why it's a bad idea to be greedy. Because I know several examples in Seattle. One person started the company and it was successful. They exit for $100 million. And he started second company with another co-founder. And he took like 8 people from first company with him. They were happy to work again. And they were successful. They sold it again. And what did they do lately? About the same amount of people started the third company. Finding people who work with you in the very beginning is very difficult. You know, they need to be aligned with the same culture, same values, working very hard. So if you already know them and they would like to work with you, that's ideal. Adapt quickly. Learn from mistakes. And the last one, ultimately, you have to make your customers happy. You have to go extra mile. Because if you make them happy, everything else will follow. If they're unhappy, you will not build a good business. All right, review homework. Oy, oy. I guess we will skip it. Let me talk about next class. So, okay, personal businessman. So, objective. To think about yourself as a business and identify your goals and objectives. Well, you can read. Doc length, 2 pages. We're not looking for something which is, 10 pages, say. You can do it on your own. But for purpose of this, 2 pages, brief. And mission statement, what's the purpose of your life? Short term, long term. And SWOT analysis. What do you think your strengths and weaknesses? And how it aligns with what marketplace wants. And I think may give a lot of things to think about, so incorporate into this. It will take time. That's why I give you like 4 or 5 weeks to work on it. Because you need to do first draft and then put it aside and don't look at it, and then after several days or a week, look at it again and add. It's iterative process to make a good product. And ultimately, again, this is for you. It's not for me. This is for you to try to increase your chances for success, as May was talking about. Fill out the form. Well, we're not going to do that, but if you haven't done it, please finish it today. Now, I'm giving you homework, heads out for both of them. So Monday, we'll have another guest speaker. Successful local company. They do, anyway, he'll tell you. But class would be about opportunity identification. Where do you find opportunity? Well, they come from a number of sources, but specifically, where do you think they come? So I don't give you a specific assignment to read. Research. And come with ways what people advocate, where can you find, and we will discuss it in class, okay? Also, I would like you to write short paragraph and submit on Canvas. That's a part of the homework, which will be graded in the end. Just this much. This is what I found, and this is what I think is important about how I can find an opportunity. Where does it come from? Whatever you can find. And a chapter 2, art of position. Actually, I decided that, in fact, after all, we will discuss chapter very briefly, but I think it's important that you actually read it and we have a chance to discuss it, because readings are pretty easy and they're quick, so it's not very burdensome. That's our guest speaker. Now, the Wednesday. How do you, next, after you identify opportunity? You need to identify right customer needs. Startups spend big companies a lot of time developing features which address needs which in fact nobody has. They're addressing something that doesn't exist. People don't care. It's all around us. So how do you identify customer needs? Again, do research, paragraph, and Canvas. To help you with that, there is if you're not familiar with Quora, does anyone familiar with Quora? No? It's like an enormous blog when people submit questions and experts answer the question. So what's the question? How do you identify latent customer needs? And about 18 people chip in, all very experienced and very interesting points. Do you know what latent means? What latent needs? Well, latent is from Latin, but it's a hidden. something you cannot easily identify. When you interview prospective customers, when you do focus groups, it just doesn't come out. There is other methods. But if you can identify late needs, you will be ahead of competition, because this is something which competitors don't think about. And I'm sure we'll come up with ideas. So, number 3, look around products which is around you, which is constantly annoys you. I'm sure you can think about at least one product which annoys you, which doesn't address right customer needs. And think about why developers did it in that way. Why didn't they address needs correctly? And we will discuss in class. Another one, document user frustration with some simple task. And also be ready to discuss. And I will give you some examples. And last, there's case Sweetwater. It's about water purification device. Sweetwater was a startup in Boulder, Colorado, which developed a pretty cool product, which is interesting enough still sells. You can go REI and buy this product 20 years later. They got acquired by a company, and the company acquired, so now they're part of a company in Seattle. So, and the questions are posted here, assignment questions. Any questions about homework? No? Well, if you have questions later, you always can email to me. Slides will be posted right after class.